You're about to hear an interview from a friend, Stephanie Blake, who actually interviewed Stephen and I on her podcast, The Powerful Parenting Podcast Journey. And we love the interview so much that we wanted to share it with you. And Stephanie gave us permission to do so. So, what you're about to hear is the entire episode over on her podcast. Stephanie cares a lot about training parents so they can make powerful decisions for them and their family, all about raising world changers, raising entrepreneur kids. If you've ever had any questions about screen time, how does that look for our family, or even Stephanie's take on it, I want to encourage you to tune in or maybe go hit subscribe on her podcast channel.
We've been loving listening to this show because we connected with Stephanie through a mastermind. So we got a lot of mutual friends. And so it's so fun to hear our friends talking on our show. So we highly recommend it. Check out this episode where she interviewed us. And if you love her show, hop on over to her show and hit follow.
I am here today with Stephen and Chelsea Diaz, who I cannot tell you guys how excited I am to have them on the podcast. These two actually epitomize something that I just look up to so much, because the whole goal for them is for themselves to create income and really truly create legacy wealth for their family while their kids are having a nap, and they help other people do exactly the same thing. And what I have seen over the years of being in masterminds with them is just that they live it. And also too, they carry with them a joy that is just a delight to be around. And they're just so inspiring, both as just humans and as entrepreneurs. And so I am so excited to welcome them onto the podcast. So welcome, guys. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Yes.
We are so excited to be here. I'm excited to dive into this conversation with you. Because I feel like you have so much wisdom in this area, and the people that you are interviewing and sharing with, like, I feel like parents more than ever need this messaging, need what you carry and have authority in. And so we're so honored, but I'm so excited to share this message, like what you're sharing, with other people, with friends and family, and plug them into your show, because it is so needed.
Yeah, we face some crazy times, right? So really quickly, before we dive into the meat of everything, would you mind just telling everybody a little snapshot of kind of what you do at the Rainmaker family?
Yeah. So we help motivated moms create thriving family legacy for themselves. So we do this by unlocking time freedom. That means that you have all the time you want to do all the things in your heart, and financial abundance. The main vehicle we're doing that with is launching brands. So e-commerce brands. We really believe, like, entrepreneurship in general. I mean, choose any vehicle you want of entrepreneurship. It is truly a transformative journey, especially when you do it with your spouse and do it together. It's like the ultimate marriage counseling. It's the ultimate like personal development thing. And so that's what we do. We help moms launch brands, physical product brands online. We use Amazon a lot as like our channel to like drive, traffic and all those things. But ultimately it's about those deeper things, because at the end of your life, you're not like, oh, so glad I sold 10,000 units on Amazon. You're like, I'm so glad like who I became in the process, and who my kids saw me become, and how it affected my marriage for the positive. And that's really what we do, and why we love doing what we do.
Ah, I love it. And if you had to estimate, like, how many moms do you think have been through your programs and like gotten to make money while their kids were sleeping?
Yeah, I mean, we started to track these stats like pretty early on because we love these awards. You see them on our wall and on
Oh, heck
Stephanie's
yeah.
walls. They're very motivating for me. I don't know. It's like a Enneagram 3. I'm like, I gotta get the awards, right? And so we have awards in our community. Right now, we have a mom crossing the $100 a day mark, so making her first $100 a day on Amazon specifically. I think it's 1.4 days in our community. So it's super cool. Like every basically day and a half, we have another mom hitting that milestone. Every 14 days, 6 figures is kind of
Wow.
our average right now. But yeah, we've taken like 30,000 plus through our programs, from our smaller challenge to our mastermind, kind of everything in between. But it's a blast. It's a blast.
That's incredible. That's so incredible, because you're helping other people leave a legacy while you yourself are leaving a legacy and a mark on the world. I think that is so incredibly cool. So, whenever we talk about starting a business, a lot of people are like, yeah, here's how to make money. But I love that you guys have a focus on getting time freedom. And a lot of times that means, helping the mom have time freedom to spend time with their kids. Can you talk to me about why has that been a priority? I mean, it seems like it's kind of common sense. Like, duh, you want to spend time with your kids, but why did that become a major focus in everything that you do?
Yeah. Steven and I, before we started Rainmakers, we were actually in the wedding industry. We were wedding photographers and videographers. And how we landed, like starting our own Amazon journey, was through just our own desire to start a family. And we were super young in our early 20s, never ran a business together, didn't really know what we were doing. But we had enough like intuition to know that in the wedding industry, you're gone all the time. We were traveling, we were working really long hours, and yeah, we were home during the week, but we kind of went through this season where our friends stopped calling us, and they stopped calling us. Family thought was we weren't really around. And honestly, we were to a point of really near burnout. And it was through that season that we discovered Amazon. And I'll never forget, we were at a wedding, like stuffing our faces with like meat and potatoes, as you do as a wedding professional, hoping that no guest is like watching you. And we checked like our Amazon account, and we were making more money on that, like in our Amazon business that we did at the wedding. And I remember, like, I think women, especially, like we want security. We desire security, to feel safe by our spouse, by the income that's coming in. And I, for the first time in my entrepreneurship journey, felt like the weight lift off of me. And like, and that was the first time moment that I felt like having a family, having kids felt like a true possibility, that I wouldn't have to go back into the grind of working and hustling. And as soon as I experienced that breakthrough, I wanted everybody to experience it. And it wasn't until like a couple years later that we got pregnant and had our first son, Kaizen, who's now almost 4 years old. But I've just realized that I like spending time with your kids. Like, I remember someone saying, you will never regret the amount of time that you get to spend with your kids. And I think leading up to becoming a mom, like I was wanting to create this lifestyle, this life, so that we could step away from the business if we needed to. And I realized that that's not every mom's reality. Like, usually it's like they'll start the business after their kids are gone, or different phases. And I just knew that becoming a mom, like you want to be with your kids. You want to have the choice, the option to work when you want to work, or send your kids to daycare, preschool, if that's what is on your heart. Like, I wanted to create that option for moms if they desired to do that. And, people say like, time is precious, like it's going by so fast. And those are all like cliche things that you hear, but it really is true. Like, Oliver, our youngest, is a year and a half. And I'm like, how are you walking already? You were this like tiny little baby. Like, I remember nursing you in the middle of the night, and as he grows and grows, like, as much as like all the money in the world and all those things and big aspirations and goals, like more than anything, like people come to the end of their life or a pivotal moment, and they look back and they say like, I wish I had more time. I wish I could go back in that moment and act this way or do these things. And it's like, what if we could create that for moms? And so I think time is huge. That's what fires me up every single day, is that time is really important. It's our highest currency.
Golly, I love that so much. And you guys have two kids right now. You've got
Mhm.
Kaizen and Oliver, who are 3 and 1. So you're early in the parenting game, which is so much fun. And I was just saying before we started chatting that, man, I just feel like for all of you who are listening that you do have kids that are younger, I feel like you're in such a great boat because, for one, you're listening to this podcast. That means you know something is up, right? And you're intentional. You want to be intentional. And I think that, there was a time period, for people who maybe their kids are like maybe 9, 10, 11. There was this phase of like this onslaught of screens in a different way that just kind of hit like a tidal wave almost. And the great thing about having kids that are younger is you can kind of see it head on, and you can formulate a game plan and be ready. And I love your intentionality that you see what's important, and you're creating the life that you want in order to create that. And then you're helping other people to do it, which I think is just phenomenal. You mentioned that you guys have a certain way that you carry out your week and how you handle time. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I think like this actually came out of, was this the first maternity paternity leave or was this the
It
second?
was the second. Yeah,
Okay.
I was going to be ending my maternity leave with Oliver, our second, and I just knew like I wanted to be really intentional about where I was spending my time and what tasks in the business really made sense for me. And as I was preparing for that, I was just like, I need to get more organized, basically. And so Stephen and I have made a priority. We call them our Sunday family meeting. And we know people that do these on different days of the week, whether it's a Friday leading into the weekend, you can kind of do it whenever you want. And we have what we call like a family meeting. And right now it's just Stephen and I, but we have intentions of adding in our boys when they get like a little bit older. I mean, I guess we could do it now, but
Maybe.
maybe we do it during their nap time. So, and we literally look at our calendar 10 days out. And we kind of go through a structure, and maybe in a second, Stephen can kind of explain that for people. But this one meeting that we started implementing when I came out of my maternity leave has given me like so much peace throughout the week, because as someone who likes to be organized, even if you don't like being organized, like parents, you're just spinning a lot of different plates between pick up and drop off and running the business and knowing kids' schedules and where to be. And I felt like before we implemented this, like I was coming to Steven like almost every single night after the boys went to bed. And I'd be like, all right, Steven, like we need to do this, this, and this, and this. And then it'd be like, almost 10 o'clock. And it's like, shoot, like I'm fried. I'm not making any good decisions. I'm super tired and I need to go to bed. And it probably ended up with us like being overwhelmed and fighting, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
And I was just doing that night after night. And it was just like, it kind of came to a breaking point where it's just like, this has to change. Like, Steven and I don't need to be talking about every single little detail. Like, we need to schedule this into one place so that all of those details get taken care of. And then the rest of the nights during the week, like if something does come up, of course we can talk about it, but it allows us to have like our together time that can be intentional, or like separate time, or doing my nighttime routine, or whatever it is. So we do this one meeting and it's been a game changer. So why don't you explain? I love how Steven explains the structure of it.
Yeah, I mean, well, so during that maternity leave, paternity leave, we took 2 months off of our business, which is
Ooh.
really sweet that we were able to create systems and create a business that could run without us and keep growing, all those things. But in that, there was a lot of clarity. So I think that's the first step, is like stepping back. So if you're listening to this, you might need to like take a little weekend trip. You might need to take a day, to really just step back. And the first thing we did was we looked at, I mean, first to start with Chelsea, because like, honestly, she was, I would say, a little more overwhelmed in that season. And so it was kind of like started with her. And then like after she was doing it for a while, I was like, oh, that looks nice. I should do that with myself. And then we did it with myself. So we started with her, and we kind of just went like, what's your dream week look like? Like, what does a dream week look like for you? Like, what needs to be in the week that like you're going to get to the end of the week and be like, that was an awesome week, And like, we've had good weeks and we've had not good weeks in this last season. So like, what was the good weeks? What was in them? What was in the not good weeks? Right. And so that helped us identify like a couple key things where it's like, I want to work out 3 times a week. Like, I want to have a one-on-one solo time with you, Steven, this week. Like, I want to do a friend date, with the boys. Right. And so we like, we identified all the things. Right. And then we scheduled those in on certain days before working in the business. Like, we just like put in like, okay, this is this type of day. This is that type of day. And I think the other thing we've learned on the other side of this is we've actually done more research on this. There's this thing called switching cost, and a lot of moms and dads, honestly, we have this thing that we get to the end of the day and we're totally frazzled. And it's not because we actually did a lot; it's because we switched a lot. Because they've done research on this, that when you switch between like one mode of thinking and task to another mode, like I'm being dad, I'm disciplining my kid, I'm trying to avoid screen time, and then you're like, I'm doing the tax strategy. And then you're like, I'm doing creative TikTok videos. It's like all these different like brains and hats you're putting on. That switching, there's a cost to it. And actually, like, you may be in another meeting thinking about something completely different, but your brain is still taking 15 to 45 minutes to transition to that thing. And so when you have a lot of switching, you end up feeling just exhausted at the end of the day. That's when you just like, don't talk to me, no decisions, prone to fighting, prone to conflict, not being your best self. And so Benjamin Hardy even talks about this in his latest book, talking about how they theme days, like actors theme days, where it's like prep days, performance days, recovery days. And so we just did that with Chelsea's calendar, where it was like business day, 100% CEO. Let's get childcare. Let's have you be like 100% CEO this day. Tuesdays, well, this is a Tuesday we're recording this, content day. So we're just doing this all day. Content, talking, podcasts,
Mhm.
TikTok videos, all that stuff all day long. We're in this brain set. And then we had like, personal days. So that way when she's having stuff scheduled and like, hey, can we do this play date? It's like, yeah, let's do it on this day. That's my personal play date day, right?
Mhm.
If she has personal things she wants to do, like massage, things like that. There's a certain day for that.
Mhm.
And this has given us a lot of freedom. It sounds like a lot of restrictions, but it's a
Mhm.
lot of like there's freedom in the boundaries that you set up.
Mhm.
And then I've even done this too, where I have certain days where like Wednesdays are more deep work days, Fridays are more personal days, Thursdays
Mhm.
meetings all day, Tuesdays content creation, Mondays is admin stuff. So
Mhm.
we've really identified what that dream week looks like for both of us, and then basically just schedule in the work around that. And
Mhm.
that has given us a lot of freedom, a lot of time freedom, because it's kind of like time is like money. Like if you don't tell it what to do, it'll just like just go away, right?
Mhm.
And so we got to like kind of put some boundaries around it. And that's going to just, yeah, crazy
Mhm.
freedom.
And from a mom perspective, like I know on, the days that I'm really working the business where I say I put on my CEO hat, I don't have the mom guilt that I think a lot of moms feel too when they're switching back and forth or spending too much time in the business, not enough time with their kids, or too much time with their kids and they're burnt out in that department. And they need to like have a higher level conversation. That has allowed me to not feel that weight or the overwhelm that I think and it's not perfect, but like that has given me, I feel like a level up as far as not experiencing those emotions that can be very prone to a lot of moms who are juggling a lot, like theming my days and knowing like I'm in the office the majority of today and I love my boys, but like when 3:45 rolls around and it's time for me to transition to mom, like I know that I've given my business my all in. And then when I go downstairs, because our office is upstairs right now, when I go downstairs, I'm having that transition and like I can fully embrace being with the boys because I've been away from them and I'm ready to go. So I don't have any desire to be on my phone if I do things correctly and if I have like my end of the day routine too. Like I am all in. I'm not like checking my phone or checking Slack. I am 100% with them. And then of course, like later in the week, I might schedule like a fun little play date or whatever. But that's given me so much peace being like, these are my days that I'm going all in. I'm not getting distracted. I'm choosing to show up in the business. And then like it's party time when I'm done to hang out with the boys. So I think that from like just an emotional mental state as a mom, like that has been incredible to experience.
I'm gonna tap into that a little bit because you said the mom guilt, right? And I know there's dad guilt too. We
Yeah.
we all experience guilt in a lot of different formats, and I think it has to do with our kind of programming from how we were raised and what we see in culture and what we think we're supposed to be. And
Hmm.
so, what I hear a lot of what you're saying is, you're coming out and you're all these I shoulda, I coulda. You're
Hmm.
structuring it to where your should haves are getting taken care of, and then you're able to step away and kind of look at your day and then come back in fully present with your kids. And so when you're talking to all of these incredible people that you're helping to build these family legacies, and maybe they aren't quite to a place where they are able to create what you're creating right now, and they're kind of feeling that mom guilt. And maybe you felt that before. I know you guys started having kids right around the time, I believe, if I've got this correct, that your business really took off.
Yeah.
So you whether you're in the position that you're in right now or not, I think mom guilt, dad guilt, it comes at us. So how do you talk to your people? Because I'm sure it comes up. You correct me if I'm
Hmm.
wrong, but I'm sure it comes up. Like, how do you talk to your people about that and what to do with that feeling? So even if sometimes you're maybe kind of stuck in a place where you don't have the liberty to fully create what you want, but you have some ability to maneuver.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I got a message this week being like, she's a young mom and it's like, it just feels like there's like not enough time in the day to like get everything that I need to get done. And yeah, I totally feel that way. I think still having a weekly meeting, like what Steve and I call that family meeting, and looking at your calendar 10 days out and making sure there's things scheduled in advance, like on your calendar. Say like you're new to starting your business, you could still block out time in your calendar already when you know that you're going to do that. And I know that say if you aren't in a place to have childcare or you're fully with your kids, like you can plan it as much as you can with nap time or whenever that space is, whether kids are having quiet time. And of course, if things get interrupted, then you do have to shift and you do have to mold, and I totally hear that. But I think having that 10-day, like looking at your calendar, scheduling it in advance will be so helpful because you could put your
Yeah.
kids down for a nap and then realize, oh, shoot, like what was I supposed to do today? Oh, well, let me just jump into my email. Let me just jump on social media. And before you know it, like you've spent a half an hour, 20 minutes, and I'm raising my hand. I've done this like
Yeah.
multiple times, like where I just start because I didn't come in with a plan.
Yeah.
And so I think if you can plan out when you're going to work, or if your kids are a little bit older at school, you can still theme your days, even if you're starting out. Like it's today the day, like in our world, it would be like product research day. And then the next day, if you're building a brand, is it creating content? Doing your lives, like what I think you can still batch things because I think that will serve you just like Steven said, the switching costs. So by the end of the day, regardless if you've been with your kids and been at work, you can still have that like mental peace and that
Mhm.
working from a place of rest that I think you can experience regardless of what level you're on in the business. And I do think that when people start out in early entrepreneurship, really look at like again, looking at the 10-day out and just saying like, is there something that I need to cut that just
Yeah.
isn't making sense for me, or relationships that aren't working out, or just something that I need to say no to for forever or for a season so that I can go and build this business. And sometimes it is often like a sacrifice of saying no to this so that I can say yes to this other thing over here that I need to pay more attention to. So I would still say scheduling and having theme days as much as you can.
I love that. And you're so right. And one of the things that's popping up in my head is, of course, I'm just seeing this Venn diagram, and you have marriage in one circle, you have kids in one circle, and then you've got the entrepreneurial journey in the other. And where
Mhm.
those all kind of intersect is like we were talking about earlier, the ultimate in personal development, the ultimate in growth for us as human beings. And what I hear you touching on is a theme that I feel like is so important for us as parents to get and continuously work on, which is instead of reacting, choosing how we're going to respond. Right. And
Mhm.
that comes from whenever our kids are doing something that we wish they weren't doing. It
Mhm.
comes to how we allow our day to happen. Either our day either happens to us or we happen to the day. Right. And
Mhm.
ultimately, the goal is that even if things kind of shift and something happens, like we're still choosing how we're going to respond versus just instantaneously reacting. And
Yeah.
and that's growth, right? Like that is not easy. Like it's so much easier to kind of act as a child, which what does a child do? Something happens, they react, right? But instead, as we grow and we mature, there's this parenting muscle that we've got to grow of choosing how we're going to respond. And what that's everything that you guys are talking about, which I love because I'm over here, ADHD entrepreneur. I struggle with consistency in my life, and I've overcome that through understanding myself and hiring team and all of that. But one of the things that I think has been so powerful for me and for my kids too is just what you're saying is learning how to look at the situation in a different way and saying, "Hey, I'm not going to I do have 10 or 15 minutes. I'm not just going to live in my kind of I think Russell calls it like a monkey mind where it's
Mhm.
like you're just kind of just going but instead, I'm gonna have the eagle's eye view, and I'm going to picture myself right now. What am I actually doing? What am I actually thinking? Right.
Mhm.
And then taking and grabbing a hold of that and being able to actually put yourself in a position to be set up for a guilt free evening, because it's like, no, I did what I meant to do. I did what I chose to do. And taking ownership of that is super powerful as a parent, right? Super
Yeah.
powerful in business and in our marriage. And oh my gosh, if we can respond versus reacting in marriage, how beautiful is that?
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
and so I love that y'all are saying that's kind of brought you freedom, right?
Mhm.
Freedom from guilt, freedom from feeling like you didn't leave it all out on the table, right?
Mhm.
So, with everything you've got going on, so that's so incredible. I hope everybody was listening and that you're thinking about like, if you don't already do a family meeting, like, how could you do a family meeting? Even if you're a single mama and
Hmm.
set that time apart for yourself and really dive in and look, at the next 10 days and say, what am I going to choose to do with my time the best that I can with my given circumstances, right? And just kind of reclaim some of that power for yourself. Um,
Hmm.
but with what you guys have going on amongst all of that, you mentioned that so far screens and technology hasn't been like a huge pressor yet in your home because your kids are relatively young. So talk to me about some of the things that you're thinking around screens. Like I'm
Yeah.
imagining they don't just get an iPad to walk around the house with all day. So what are you doing right now with them?
Yeah, this is great. We need an audit, I think, Stephanie, of our situations because
Yeah.
I think it's a kind of like one of those things that, like,
Give us feedback.
very much like time, if we don't create boundaries around it and healthy, we're not powerful around it, then it's just going to sneak in and grow and grow and grow. So I feel like anything to do with screen times, I am to blame for. Let's just put that out there. 'Cause it's kind of like you just do something and then it becomes a thing, you know? And
Yep,
so
totally.
we don't have any screens or iPads or anything like that. Even when traveling, we just never gave our kids screens.
Yeah.
Unless it was like I think lately we've been on some longer flights like to Europe or across the country. And if they have a screen there, then it's just kind of like it's on the seat, you know.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
try to bring toys, things like that. But screen time in the home, really mostly we try to limit it to Saturday mornings.
Yeah.
And so that kind of gave us like this is again a Steven idea that kind of was because Steven was waking up very early with the kids Saturday morning. And I was kind of like, well,
I was super pregnant with Oliver and not even super pregnant. I was in my pregnancy with
yeah,
Oliver. So I
very sick.
appreciate he was trying to love and serve me, but I was very sick and Kaizen was waking up
Yeah.
early.
So
So
I'd wake up with Kai and it'd be like, hey, buddy, like, like it just kind of became a thing
Yeah.
and then we limited it to Saturday, which is nice because during the week, if he like wanted to watch it, whatever, he likes to watch like very interesting niches on YouTube, like trees falling down and icebergs falling into water. And like, he's like really into like lumberjack videos and just like these
That's
like
so
really
cool.
niche things, which is hilarious. But I like it was just kind of one of those things that like if you asked about it during the week, we can go, oh, we'll add that to your Saturday list. And then he just kind of like it just like kind of pushes it off a little bit.
Love it.
But then Saturday he's really into it. And it's kind of like and it started going well. But lately he's been pretty reactive when we turn it off. Even if we're like, hey bud, 10 more minutes, set a timer, put it in front of him. Even if I coach him ahead of time, hey man, if like we're gonna do this, we can't just like derail our whole day. And so lately, I would say we call the fruit, like, check the fruit, check the results of the
mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
The fruit, even of just like 30 minutes on a Saturday morning, has not been great. But now he's kind of like it's become a tradition. So we're like, I don't know. And so we're tempted to just go cold turkey on it. But I also
Yeah.
feel like there's this balance of like,
Hmm.
we had this conversation with a mentor about Halloween and just like candy, like just having candy in the house and like having food in the house. Because I feel like as a kid, like I feel like because I've had more restrictions around food in my life, sometimes I just want to like splurge on the food. And now I have like kind of unhealthy, like if there's
Hmm.
food, I have to have it. Like, oh, free
Yeah.
donuts, they're free. Oh my gosh. Like you just see that if
Mhm.
like we used to do youth group. We had these kids that had like super strict food. Like their
Yeah.
parents would never let them have anything. But if the
Oh,
youth group had like it was just like unhealthy hoarding of like the snacks because they'd
Mhm.
never had it. And so we don't want to create that either,
yeah,
of like, oh, you
totally.
can never watch screens. And then he just like, as soon as he has the freedom in college, he just like
Mhm.
is in is in the basement on the screen nonstop. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
well, again, they're 3 years old. We don't need to think that far out, but we are thinking through like, how do we have really healthy boundaries around this? And like, how can we make it fun for him, educational for him, something that is awesome, but it's not his whole life. It's not something he's
Yeah,
asking for about every day.
totally. Oh my gosh. So first off, I just want to say bravo because your languaging was I was going to be like, "Oh, okay, what's going on?" But you're like only on Saturdays. And so I just want to hats off to you guys because I do know some families that for them where they are right now, it does look like 3 to 4 hours a day for their 3 and
Mhm.
4-year-old, which, I would not recommend. 100% do not recommend. But that's kind of where that family is. And so I just want to say hats off to you that you're being so intentional about it. Like that's incredible. And truly exceptional, which I would say I should expect that from you guys because you are exceptional human beings. But at the same time, we all earn that. You earn the right to make those decisions and those choices and have that maturity, right?
Mhm.
But so on the Saturday morning thing, the reality is that most likely, and again, for anybody listening and for you guys, my kids are 10, 15, almost 18 and 21. And so in my experience in parenting and homeschooling for over a decade, the reality is whatever you set up right now may not even work for your family in a month from now or
Yeah.
6 months from now. And so what you might be finding right now is that maybe at this age, it's not actually a good fit for even to have Saturday mornings. But that doesn't mean in 6 months you don't circle back around to it, because the
Mhm.
priority here is connection. The priority here is having the family life that you actually want and not allowing devices or screens to inhibit that family life that you actually want. A lot of times I see families and they feel like they're forced to compromise on what their family
Mhm.
day in and day out looks like because, oh, well, my kid games from this time to this time and he meets with his friends. So I have to make sure we don't have dinner because he'll need 20 minutes to get off before blah, blah, blah. Or so and so has shows, or whatever it might be, or my daughter, she wants to get away from dinner quickly so she can go socialize on social media with her friends, right? Like, I feel like those things right there are not are where the buck has to stop for us as people who have families, because the family's the priority.
Mm.
Yes, it's important for our kids to have peers, and they are living in a day and age where they connect through that, but if we look big picture at the human existence and what humans need to thrive, it is truly that connection in our home. And that's why I know it's common sense that that should always take priority, but oftentimes it gets muddled because of pressure from other maybe a different family does it another way, or pressure from our kids, or even pressure from ideals we have around what our family has to look like. And so, maybe it's that Saturday needs to be pitched out for a couple of months or something, just to kind of do a reset, and then you restructure and reframe what maybe Saturday looks like. If it's not, the fruit isn't there. But what you're talking about though is so cool that you have it so young. I love it so much with your kids being so young, because its reality is that our kids are living in a digital world. And
Mhm.
most likely, if you are a digital parent and you utilize screens and you have a cell phone and you're on your phone and things like that, it's difficult to separate and say, hey, look, mommy and daddy can be on phones, but you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a struggle. And some families will choose that. They'll say, we're not a technology family. And that's not where I fall. I am a technology geek. I love computers. I love the internet. I love all of these things. And my kids, conversely, are also lovers of technology and super whizzes on devices and things like that. So our choice for our family was that we were going to learn how to teach our children to have their own ideals and opinions around screens, right? So from a young age, being able to communicate around, how do we want to spend our time as a family?
Mhm.
Where do our values lie? And do we want to stand, like, for me, I'm a believer, right? Do I want to stand before the Lord? Let's just and your kids are a little young for this one, but save it because it's awesome. So, like,
Yeah.
if we were to spend 2 hours 3 or 4 days a week on devices, add that up for a full lifetime, and let's say we live to be 85 years old or whatever it might be, how many years of time will that have been spent playing a video game, or being on social media, and just talking about being a good steward of our time here on earth? And what does that
Mm.
want to look like? And we also have to balance it. Like, of course, we're entertaining ourselves. There is time that we will watch TV or Netflix, or maybe it could be the equivalent of doing something else, that doesn't even have anything to do with screens. But having our children look at all the aspects of what screens bring into our life, both positive and negative, and even from a young age, talking about the value of our time. Man, your time is so valuable, Kaizen, right? Like, I just want to make sure that we're thinking about how you're deciding to use your time. And again, 30 minutes on Saturday, and he's 3, it's probably not quite there yet, but from a young age, starting to have that conversation and you modeling it is the most important thing. And having conversations around, man, I just was on the phone for quite a bit of time right now. I want to make sure I put that up so I can I spend my time wisely, because if we can raise them at a young age and all throughout, and having that as a part of their thought process, because think about it, we're doing it in all these different categories of our parenting, finances, right? Oh, we got to put a
Mhm.
little money over for savings. We train them how to think about finance. we train them to think about, oh, we don't want to eat too much candy. Candy is not necessarily good for us because of sugar. But yet now we have this kind of new battlefront of screens,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like, how do we start having these conversations consistently with our children around that so that just as much as, I don't know, y'all are probably too young for this, but the dare, I don't know if y'all were in school whenever they had like
Oh
this
yeah.
dare situation happening in all public schools. And, we were indoctrinated, like fully indoctrinated. Just say no to drugs, like I had police officers coming into our schools and telling us about these things and there's wisdom in that. And like I'm, 40 plus year old right now and like I could probably tell you a lot about the DARE program and what I experienced. And that's because there's wisdom and repetition. And there's different levels of how you communicate, obviously, as your kids get older and all of that. But the idea is how do we teach our children about health, screen health? We got
Mhm.
financial health, health in social situations with your peers. And so it's just another bucket that we now
Yeah.
have as parents. And
Yeah.
I know that can be really difficult. And I actually do have a friend who, straight up, just like you said, Stephen, his parents, no games, no games. Matter of fact, he got in trouble because they came over to our house one time and we were all playing games. We were playing with our kids and they joined us with that game, but they weren't supposed to. So they got grounded and got really big trouble. And unfortunately, this individual went off to college and straight up failed out of college because he was playing MMORPG, which is super fun, by the way. And not what everybody thinks, but anyway, went off, started playing the game, and just completely failed out of college because he would stay up literally all night long,
Yeah.
raiding and doing all these things, and just couldn't seem to get the priority right. And we don't want to set our children up for that, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think like what I'm having this revelation as you're talking. I think
Mhm.
the next step, it's about steps, right? So there's not gonna be one rule that works from 3 to 30.
Right.
But I think the next
Unfortunately.
step for us,
I know.
I think it's just bringing awareness to Kaizen's mood and how sometimes the TV can affect his mood, like it's like he wakes up super happy, 30 minutes. Sometimes, like I said, it can go longer than that too.
Mhm.
But then it's like the longer it goes on, the more it kind of affects his mood and how long it affects it. So I think just bringing awareness to that. And then lately I've been like, this is for me. I'm trying to like be more active. I think like having something to transition from the TV to that's more exciting is
Yes.
really good for the 3-year-old. Like I'm like, so last week, I don't know, it was 2 weeks ago, maybe now, I've been trying to just like run. So like, I'm like, I want to take Kai on a run. So I was like, guys, okay, we're gonna watch your little shows. We got your list here, trees falling down, all the things, right?
Yeah.
But then afterwards, I'm gonna put you in the stroller. I'm gonna push you as fast as I can, and so I
Oh,
make it
that's
sound
great.
really exciting about the thing we're going to go do, and that I think helps him transition.
Mhm.
And then also like really communicating, hey, bud, we got 5 minutes left, and then we're gonna go as fast as we can in the stroller. Okay, we got 3 minutes left. And I just like keep hitting the repetition of
Mhm.
like the transition and how exciting it's gonna be. So then he's like excited. "Hey, do you want to hit the button or you want me to hit the button to turn the TV off? And he's
Mhm.
excited to do it and kind of be a part of that process. But it's hard, like it's really easy to just be like, oh, he's watching the show. Like I get my time to like chill, but we still got to be active in it and communicating and it's hard, sometimes when you're tired just to like not unplug. So I totally get that, if we can't have authority over it ourselves and we just want to sit there and scroll, which there's been nights that are mornings that is totally me.
Totally.
If I can't have authority over it, I can't have him carry the authority
Mhm.
either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Stephanie, you reminded me of this. Like, we recently put Kaizen, our oldest, in like a 2-day a week little farm school, Montessori preschool. And I was
Oh,
really like, honestly, leading up to it, I heard all these good things. We had a lot of friends that
Yeah.
recommended this school and, I had like a great conversation with the lady who runs it. But I was still feeling, I think it's the entrepreneur in me that has that rebellious side of like, I don't want somebody else to tell me what to do with my kid. And just because other friends are doing preschool or TK or whatever doesn't mean we're going to. Like, we're already the different, like, Steve and I already like a flag in the ground, like, we're going to do things differently,
yes.
But I gave myself permission and I had to have a serious conversation. I'm like, Steven, like, I'm a little nervous about this thing. Like, what if it doesn't go great? And we just said, then we just take him out and we just, as parents, can decide what's best for him, what's best for us. in our family dynamic. And so I
Yeah.
love what you touched upon this too, Stephanie. It's like you decide what's right for you and your family and just own it and run with it. And so, yeah, this thing that we might implement might work out, it might not, but like you can be the parent to one to decide like what school you're going to send your kid to, how you're going to do life. And that's a really like beautiful thing. And for me, that as a mom, enrolling him in this new thing that I was kind of scared to do, like that gave me the peace that I needed to be like, yeah, like I can take him out and it's going to be okay if something doesn't happen. So just giving,
100%.
yeah.
And I think that that like is like I wish that every single parent could have that because every single child that you have, at least maybe there's someone out there who would tell me that no, my two kids are completely the same. I've never heard that though. But I have
Yeah.
four children and they are night and day difference. I think like every other one has something in common. Like my oldest and my third one, they have some similarities. And my youngest and my third, they have similarities, but they're definitely not in any way, shape, or form the same human,
Hmm.
even
Yeah.
remotely. And so like that's the crazy part about the parenting journey is that you are growing, you're learning, but you're ever evolving. It's just like entrepreneurship because everything in entrepreneurship is constantly changing and you have to adapt. So like as
Hmm.
parents, we have to grow the skill to be adaptable but confident in what we
Hmm.
see in our child and what we feel in our spirit for each child because I tell you what Josiah Blake lived through as me and John parenting him was completely different for Jude and then Jocelyn and then now Journey. And they all talk about it. Sometimes they're like, well, what, if that had been me, then you would have blah, 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 blah. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, but she isn't you. And it's just completely different. And so I love that so much that you pulled that out and that you're owning that because it's so powerful and it's powerful because it protects your children from the status quo of what it should have to look like. Just because you did it for one kid doesn't mean it has to look that way for the next kid. And then Stephen, the digital, I call it the digital void. And you hit on that perfectly. It's, when we remove screens, you're so smart because that really does give a pathway. And especially when they're younger, I'm like, I always lean into grace when they're young. When they're so little, it's like, yeah, if you can distract them and that makes sense, then distract them with something rather than having to tell them no. Fine, that's good and all. When they're really young like that, and then as setting it up like you said with something that's even funner, so that Saturday, actually rides with dad trumps getting to watch the icebergs fall into the water, right? And then they look forward to that, and that also creates event horizons with you and your child. And that's one of the biggest things that we can do as parents is create these opportunities with our kids where we break up the ordinary, right? And so having something different, you could even have like a jar and Kaizen gets to like grab out of the jar and this is what I'm going to get to do with daddy today. And, the fun jar or something like that. And those kind of things make the world of difference in their brains and also in how their memory processes. It actually literally can make their childhood memories actually elongate because we're giving them event horizons. Because otherwise, if we are, just goes for us too. So everybody listening and you guys and myself, I'm always reminding myself, it's like the more time you spend scrolling or watching a Netflix series or whatever, most of the time your brain doesn't actually process that as a full on event. It's something that your brain will collapse time on. And you'll be like, oh yeah, I did watch like 4 hours of that season. I don't remember exactly what happened. And it's just kind of like your brain checks out. It's like whenever you get up in the morning, you do your morning routine. You can't really remember the morning routine that much. Or you drive somewhere, you drive all the time and you can't really remember the drive because you just got lost in
Wow.
your
Yeah.
thoughts. And so that memory time period is collapsed. Now, what could potentially happen? This is just a hypothesis of mine. But what could happen if we have a generation of children who are spending the majority of their time sitting in front of a screen? What's going to happen to their memories? Is their childhood going to feel like it wasn't really there that much? Because I played a ton of video games when I was a kid. I was a Nintendo, Sega Genesis, like Sega CD, like all the old school games. And I played a ton of those video games. And I will tell you right now, I have no memories of actually playing the video games.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No significant memories. My husband has a few, but it was only when he was playing video games with other people were the
Yeah.
only times. And so
I have an
like,
interesting experiment running on that, Stephanie, because like we take a ton of photos and videos on our phones. And do you have an iPhone?
Yes.
Like they have like the memory, or it's like, I don't know what it's called. If it's called memories, but they have
Yeah.
like a thing in the phones where you can like play little reels and it just like makes them for you.
I love it.
So on the
Yes.
plane, like sometimes like when I don't really want Kai to like watch screens, but we're in a situation where it's just like, okay,
Totally.
I'll be like, do you want to watch some family memories? And I just
Mhm.
lock the phone on that. And he just watches through like videos of himself and us, these experiences we've been on and things like that. But I'm like, it's gonna be interesting to see because I remember like memories I have of being a kid from my family movies that I watched, and
Mm.
I
Mhm.
remember it from the movies. I probably was too young to actually remember it. But it's interesting to think like I'm kind of blurring the line between actual memories and like these like documented like
Mhm.
things on our phone. But he loves it. He'll just watch that. And he did that on the plane recently. We had a pretty long flight, 2 flights. And on the second flight, we just kind of ran out of stuff to do. So I was like, hey, you want to watch family memories? And he
Mhm.
just watched those for like 20 minutes, just like,
Dang.
fun moments of him and his brother and things like that. So I don't know. We'll see.
I think that's so smart because it really truly could be giving them, your mind's
Yeah.
that visual there for, what was my childhood like? What happened? Gosh, I
Mhm.
love that. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's like TikTok, but it's like all family content?
Oh, that's going to be so interesting. I wonder how that's going to turn out. That's so cool. I think that's a phenomenal idea. So you guys have so many good things going on. I love it so, so much. And I love that for Kaizen and Oliver because you guys are going to be just parents that are present for them and watching out for all of these crazy things that are happening and creating those event horizons and filling the digital void. It's all so good. You guys are doing such great work. And so I would love it if you would kind of tell me what it means to you. And if you guys would just take a second each to let me know, Stephen, what does it mean to you to be a good father? And then conversely, Chelsea, what does it mean to you
That's
to
a
be
good
a
That's
good
such a
mother?
question.
good question.
I mean, I think the father is the most important voice to speak identity into a child. And so I think a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with as adults is I'm not enough. That mom guilt, it's like the root of that is I'm not enoughness, and like having a really healthy father speak identity into you, which I had a great dad growing up and like he's awesome. But I feel like even in discipline, things like that, he didn't always go to like, there's a difference between calling someone out and calling someone up. And
Ooh.
I've recently experienced this with a mentor, a spiritual mentor in my life. And I was like, whoa, like there's something different about that.
Mhm.
And so instead of going to shame or guilt or you're not enoughness in discipline,
Mm.
actually calling out like gold in someone and bringing that up. That's identity. So instead of going, Kai, like you hit your brother, like that was bad, like, hitting hurts people, like, and that's like a shame. That's like pushing him down. It's like, Kaizen, I know that you're so gentle with your hands and like you're such a good brother. I've seen you do this, and this good things with your brother. And what just happened there wasn't your identity. That's not you. That's calling someone up. And I think a father, or I think mothers as well, like that's like one of our biggest roles is speaking identity and doing it in a healthy way, right? And doing it in a way that's not based in shame, based in guilt, based in any of these negative emotions, manipulation, like fear. A lot of
Mhm.
people like they speak in ways that are motivated in those. It's like, oh, I'm gonna use fear or this to do it because that's how they were raised, right? And
Yep.
so that's one area that I feel like I'm leveling up in currently, and it's not perfect in, but we've learned to do this with like not just our kids, but our team members, with
Mhm.
our
Powerful.
relationships. And I feel like I've learned it because I've seen it modeled really well from mentors in our life. And yeah, I just want to do that.
Mm.
Dang. Dang, that's powerful. Okay, what about you, Chelsea?
This is such a good question. I'm gonna remember it for other guests or just to have it be like a compass as I like parent our boys. I feel like as a mom, I want to be like this safest person for our boys to come to with anything that they know that they can like that our home that what we created is like the safest place for them to mess up to screw up, to have questions, to have doubts, and that we would just be like that sounding board, that above all else, that we would stay like connected to each other as a family. And what I mean by connection is like that father identity that is speaking into, but also that I think one of the biggest things at looking at my own childhood, again, my parents like are amazing people that loved me and provided for me. But I think knowing too that I can like mess up and what healthy conflict looks like, and be a family, like a mom that says something and like not only just isn't just all talk, but actually takes action. So it's like, if we're going to be a family that believes in generosity, then I'm going to like take Kaizen along and be generous with him. And so that he would know that Stephen and I are people of our word. And yeah, that our home would just be this safe place where growth and exploration and questioning and conflict and all of that is, they know that that is all welcome and accepted, and that this is going to be like the safest place. And I think at a practical level, like I want to be the home that like all my kids' friends want to come to and be to, because it's safe and it's awesome and it's fun. I want to know that any dream that the boys have, that we will like shepherd that and honor that and like champion them into whatever that is. And I think like ultimately too, like we love Jesus, and I just want them to like experience God's goodness and fullness and love, and knowing that like I believe that there's like hope in the world, that we can be hope dealers. And yeah, so those are some of my like things that like stir up in me as you ask that question.
Oh, that's so good. You guys. Oh, I love so much the identity, and then also just that safe space. And the cool part is just, to come back to just faith, and like that's how we're loved, right? Like that's
Mhm.
ultimately, when God speaks to us, he doesn't bring on the shame. He brings the
Mhm.
truth
Yeah.
and calls us
Mhm.
up, right? And same thing
Yeah.
with God, as far as like when we screw up, we have a safe place to come to, right? And so it's like modeling that as parents is such a lofty goal that I believe changes the world from our home outward. You know what I mean? Because we have so many kids who have broken homes, and I believe we're in a battle right now
Mhm.
with screens. And I feel like, entrepreneurs are usually kind of the abnormal ones. But there's just a lot of people out there who just are getting beaten up, beaten over the head, and kids as well, just because they don't know what's happening. They don't, it's just like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, you're going to be at school, and I got to connect with you so that whenever I pick you up, we can find each other. So here's a phone.
Yeah.
And then, okay, wait, I was supposed to put what on the phone? I didn't realize that he was going to sneak the phone into the bed. I didn't realize there was going to be this power struggle. I didn't realize there was going to be this app that would expose them to this. I didn't realize. And
Mhm.
there's so many people who, younger and younger and younger, crazy, crazy things are happening. And so for you guys to be standing up and being so intentional, that's why, this podcast is called The Powerful Parenting Journey.
Mhm.
And it's getting to highlight, people who are standing up and have the ability and the know-how and the will to stand up powerfully, because I believe it impacts our whole world. And this generation needs
Mhm.
kids who are going to be raised differently. Because
Mhm.
unfortunately, there's a lot going on, and we're going to need leaders who understand their identity, right? And they understand what it means to come into a place and have safety. Like that's some
Mhm.
powerful stuff you guys are building. It's so awesome. So with that, I want to segue into some other powerful stuff that you guys are doing. And I want you guys, please, 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 I would love for you to share with everybody who's listening about your podcast, the Rainmaker Family podcast. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, if you are a podcast listener, which you are, check out our show. It's called the Rainmaker Family Show. We are, man, a year and a half in, I think now. We're like
Wow.
over 100 episodes. If you want to go deeper on that, like family meeting, if you think that'll really help you have freedom in your calendar just by having a short 30-minute or less meeting. I know it sounds boring. I'm saying meeting, but hold on one second. What's your Oh,
Got
We've
back
got
from
Kyson
preschool.
just came in.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the best part of working from home. We got an open door policy. You can come on anytime.
All
We're on a
right.
podcast right now. Anything you want to say about parenting?
Hi, Kyson.
That's the question. You take the nap down, buddy. Okay. I love you. You gonna stay here? Okay, we'll do our podcast thing.
He's totally
So,
welcome.
The podcast.
episode, I want to say it's 99 or episode 100. It's called like Level 10 Your Life. And we actually use a pretty popular business meeting structure with our family. And hold, don't touch those because that might, I think we won't be able to hear us. I want to make sure they can hear us. Can you still hear us?
Yes, you're so good.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Kaizen's favorite toy is the levelers here.
Oh, that's great.
The buttons.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
So did I finish the
99 or
thought on
100?
that? Sorry.
Yeah, 99 or 100. And you're going to show and teach how to structure that meeting essentially, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's called L10 Your Life. It's got the whole like structure we use for our family meetings.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And also, too, I understand you guys wrote a children's book.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. It's called The Rainmaker. I'm showing it right here. It's got Kaizen and Ollie are the superstars in it, and you can find it on Amazon.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I love it. I love it. But you guys, you are absolutely incredible. I appreciate you coming on and just sharing your life with us. And I just want to applaud you. I mean, I'm sure you guys have a beautiful support system, but you're doing great things as parents. And I just want to say I'm rooting for you. I'm cheering you on. Thank you for setting an example. It's incredible. Guys, go check out the Rainmaker Family Show podcast and grab the Rainmaker children's book. I'm going to go grab it myself. I had no idea they had a children's book until I got on. I was like, wait, what? Hold the phone. So this is so cool. We'll make sure to put the links in the resources of our show notes so you can check it out there if you'd like. And guys, just want to encourage you as we're kind of exiting out that no matter which golden nuggets, I mean, there's so many golden nuggets that were shared today from Chelsea and from Stephen, whichever one landed for you. I just want to encourage you that you are the parent for the job and you don't have to apply it all. The most important thing is that you're trying and that you're moving things forward and that you are being an intentional parent to the best of your ability with your current circumstances. And so thank you so much for listening, and we will see you on the next show.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rainmaker Family Show. Hey, if you are not a part of our Rainmaker Mastermind, we have a new opportunity for you to book a one-on-one strategy call with one of our Rainmaker coaches.
If you want to get a call with them, see if it's a good fit for you to work with us to build a business that allows you to have time freedom and financial freedom, you can get that call at makeitrainmama.com/podcast. That's makeitrainmama, MOMMA.com/podcast.